Self-Portrait Photo. Now we're going to use Photoshop to work on photos. Yes, we've been using it for drawing. This is another really important feature of Photoshop. Trying to use photos, manipulate them. Your product at the end of this project will be having a self-portrait photograph that looks like it's in a frame and looks very realistic, as well as we can given the cameras we're using on our computers. You're going to start off with a simple frame and a picture. I took a picture of me being very stern, and I'm not going to use the whole picture and place the whole thing. I think the best way to do this is to learn to use the cropping tool. It's right over here. You get a rectangle with an indicator of how it can scale. Okay, I'm just going to isolate my face and a little bit of the shirt there so I can place that much more easily. I've selected it. At this point, I could move it around. I could change the size, or I could move the placement, but that's pretty good right there. Hit enter, and it's cropped the whole picture down to that size. Now, there's some other features we want to play with too. This is pretty dull. The lighting's not very good. There are changes that you can make. They're called adjustments. If you go to adjustment, I think the one we want to play with today mostly is exposure. There's a lot of other ones in here, obviously, but just look at these for right now. If you increase the exposure, you make the picture brighter. I don't care about the background. We're going to get rid of that. And also the offset, it's kind of like contrast. I'm not going to explain too much, but play with it. This is a much better photo than we started with. I know it's not great, but it'll work. So I'm going to say, okay, now if I want to change it more later on, I can. Now I'll go to the frame, and I want to place that. File, place. There's the picture. Hold down Shift as before. Very important to keep your face in proportion. Not sure exactly how this is going to fit, so for right now, I'm going to turn down the opacity on that. Now I can see where it'll fit. That's okay. It's not quite tall enough, so I hold down the Shift key and make it a little bit bigger. See, if we'd used the original picture, it would be way too much. So now I can see where the frame is. I want some of my collar in there. Let's make it just a little bit bigger. Pretty much fill the frame, but certainly not going over it. Okay, I like that composition. Hit enter, and now it's set. Now I'm going to take the opacity back up to 100% and put it beneath the frame layer. Okay, now frame layer is locked. I've also given you a black layer background and a white background. You might need different ones as you're erasing. I want you to erase all the stuff that doesn't matter. So let's go to the eraser tool, and when you get these messages sometimes, it must be rasterized. Go ahead and rasterize the smart object. I'm not going to explain what that is. It doesn't matter. So right now when I erase, I see the black background. If I wanted to see the white background, I could do that. Your picture might need one or the other. I'd like to leave this eyeglass rim, but I've got to erase the stuff inside. Now you can also save a little time by using the magic wand tool. But see, sometimes it's going to go over borders. There's not a pixel there, so be careful using that. I'm going to try something. I'm going to just try erasing this here. So go back to eraser. Now, obviously, my beard, I'm not going to get every hair there. If you take a chunk out like that, undo, it's better to do a lot of little strokes. You'll have more control. And if you make a mistake, you can undo that one and not lose the others. When you get something right, save it. I'm going to try to leave the rim of the glasses, but get rid of everything else. You may not want to be so tricky. So go ahead and erase around the whole head. You can make the eraser bigger too. Get rid of more of this. And when you put the black background up, you'll see it again. Now, there's a problem with this. See this border here? How pixelated it is? Pixelated means you can see the pixels. Remember when we defined these earlier in the year? They're not points of light, they're squares. They don't look right. And in this case, you're going to get a halo around the edge that makes it look like it was cut out. To deal with that, you blur it. So go to my blur tool. I'm going to use a fairly fine one. I'm just going to blur this right on the edge. I'm blurring the ray picture, not the background. The background shows behind it. So when you can see right here, there's a halo. Right here, not so much. You want to blur out that halo. Make it not quite so harsh. If your photo looks like it doesn't belong there, you've probably missed this step. See how the difference that makes? Okay, do that all the way around the head. And when you bring up the frame, you should only see you, the black background, and the frame that's already set there. Now that I'm in the frame, I'm not so nuts about this. I want to adjust that again. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Exposure. I'd like it to be a little bit brighter and a little more use your eye. Pick something that looks good. Gamma correction, be careful. If it looks good, go ahead and go with it. I wouldn't change this very much at all. Very subtle corrections. You can play with the hue and the color and other things you find in here under adjustments, but you can really mess it up. So save before you start playing with it. The major one to use is exposure. When you get a realistic drawing photograph in the frame that you really like, submit that and take your time on this. Here the point is realism. It's not creativity, it's controlling these tools. You're going to need these skills in upcoming projects.